The end of human history has already been written. There are no surprises to God, and there are no surprises to those who understand what God has revealed. We are not headed towards some humanly engineered utopia. We are not on the way to an age of peace and tranquility.
One of America's biggest cities sinking into chaos.
Tonight we have witnessed lawlessness and chaos on the streets as the violence escalates despite calls from Baltimore, where the governor of Maryland has declared a state of emergency.
This is a grieving family that deserves answers for their son.
Together we united!
And what our Lord says about the future is horrendous. According to the Lord Jesus, the future for this world and its inhabitants is very, very tragic.
We need to realize how close this clock is to getting toward the midnight hour. And I think that's why, for our sake, for the sake of our family, for our nation, we need to cry out to a holy God. This is coming faster than anyone can see.
A powerful earthquake struck Nepal on Saturday. The 7.9 magnitude quake's epicenter was just 80 kilometers east of Nepal's second largest city, Pokhara, devastating the surrounding area and sending tremors through northern India and even triggering avalanches on Mount Everest.
The death toll has reached over 7,500, with more than 16,000 people injured. Thousands of missing are still unaccounted for.
I know I worked very hard on the Intelligence Committee to try and keep up with what was happening in the world. It got to such a crescendo, I could hardly keep up with it anymore. The events have picked up such a pace, and they're going to continue. It's just like the Bible forewarned, that in the last days it will be like the beginning of birth pains. In my opinion, we are far beyond the beginning of birth pains. We're moving far down into the process. For women who are listening to this show today, you know what I'm talking about, what it's like to deliver a baby at the very beginning stage and then at the very end before the baby is born. All I can tell you as a mom who has given birth to 5 babies, the birth pangs are very close together, they're very intense now, and we are literally watching month by month the speed move up to a level we've never seen before with these events. And that's why the best thing that we can do is have churches and pastors explain our times. Believers need to get our lives right with God, and then we intercede. We intercede and intercede, and then not despair. Prophets said we look to the future. We long to see those days and live in those days. Why? Because it's the return of a soon and coming King. Jesus Christ is coming back. We, in our lifetimes, potentially could see Jesus Christ returning to earth. This is one of the most exciting times in history. We need to be exactly watching the tenor of the times, be observing, and look up. Our redemption draweth nigh. These are wonderful times, but we see the destruction, but this is the destruction that was foretold.
The scale of the flooding has been difficult to believe. In southwestern Peru, it almost submerged this bridge. Further north, the rain brought down this landslide. The country's president has declared a state of emergency. Further south, in neighbouring Chile, the rain is still causing trouble. Copiapó is the capital of the Atacama region, normally one of the driest places on Earth. It normally gets about a centimetre of rain a year. It's taken the authorities completely by surprise. This water should have fallen as snow high up in the mountains. Instead, because the weather is unusually warm, it's falling as rain. The storms have been the heaviest for at least 80 years. Meanwhile, other parts of Chile are suffering from drought. The chaotic weather is testing the country's resilience, and forecasters say it could get even worse in the next few months.
Chilean volcano Calbuco has erupted for a third time in just over a week, sending a cloud of ash and smoke high into the sky. The volcano erupted twice last week, spewing over 200 million tons of ash, coating nearby towns, wreaking havoc with the salmon industry and cancelling flights as far away as Buenos Aires. Located some 1,000 kilometers south of Chile's capital, Santiago, Calbuco had lain dormant for nearly 5 decades before erupting twice in the space of 24 hours. Authorities are maintaining a red alert and a 20-kilometer exclusion zone around the crater.
The state of California is resorting to drastic measures tonight to combat its severe drought. The governor ordering the strictest crackdown on water use in history.
As we enter our 4th year of drought here in California, these conditions are symbolic all across the West.
Certain reports say the state has only a year's supply of water left in those reservoirs.
Scientists call what's happening here unprecedented.
We're technically in the middle of our rainy season. Mountains should be lush with green. Instead, they're bone dry. Tonight, Lake Piru, we're at the bottom of a reservoir. We should be 30 feet underwater here. Instead, these are the conditions. This is why California is in a state of emergency.
We're in an historic drought, and that demands unprecedented action. It's for that reason that I'm issuing an executive order mandating substantial water reduction. Now we are embarked upon an experiment that no one has ever tried, ever, in the history of mankind.
The governor of drought-stricken California has called for a $10,000 fine for residents who waste water.
It's time for Californians to face reality. There isn't enough water.
To the West Coast now, where both Northern and Southern California experienced a lot of shaking. And while both quakes are considered mild, it still has lots of people thinking about the possible big one.
The worry is that these small quakes will trigger a big quake. Hopefully not the big one. Be prepared to feel some shaking in the next 30 years. That's much more than you felt in the past down here.
An earthquake measuring 7.5 has struck off the coast of Papua New Guinea, triggering a tsunami warning.
Essentially, there's a tsunami threat for the local inhabitants for the places close to the earthquake, and they've probably already been hit by the first wave by now.
Costa Rica's Turrialba volcano belched a column of gas and ash upwards of 6,000 feet into the air on Monday. An explosion on Monday afternoon, lasting 28 minutes, emanated from the volcano in central Costa Rica, and ash reached parts of the capital, San Jose, some 30 miles away.
The aftermath of a horrendous storm in Germany. Violent winds swept across the north of the country, leaving at least one person dead in Hamburg and causing widespread damage. Local media reported winds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's complete madness. Hundreds of trees have overturned, completely uprooted, roofs ripped off. In some places, cars were reportedly blown some 70 meters down the road. The storm follows unusually warm weather in this part of Germany.
From Japan and overseas, seismic activity has been increasing. Officials have raised the warning level for the volcano.
They've recorded many earthquakes near the surface of the mountain in the past 2 weeks.
Tornadoes wreaking havoc yet again across the plains, waking up to disaster as the Red Cross and emergency personnel begin combing through the neighborhoods damaged or destroyed in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. For the first time in history, the National Weather Service declaring a flash flood emergency in Oklahoma City as tornadoes rip roofs off buildings.
Heavy rains and strong winds flattened houses as Typhoon Noel crashed into the northeastern tip of the Philippines.
For the second time in less than 3 weeks, Nepal has been rocked by another major earthquake. The 7.3 magnitude tremor hit near the Everest base camp, killing at least 66 people, destroying buildings and leaving more people homeless.
And there should be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. This is a sign that we are living in the last days. We are just around the corner. Very soon, we are going to see the King. Very soon. It's right around the door. All the signs that I mentioned are already here. It's already here.
This is the Telica volcano roaring to life in Nicaragua. The country's most active volcano first exploded on Sunday night. Nearly 50 small gas and ash explosions, along with 7 micro-earthquakes, have followed since.
Scientists are sounding an alarm about rising sea levels because the largest ice shelf in Antarctica is in imminent danger of collapse. That would allow glaciers behind it to start flowing into the sea, causing a potentially dangerous rise in sea levels.
Now we have the spare opportunity of this ice shelf destabilizing and eventually collapsing in front of our eyes. It is certainly a warning. The conclusion is inescapable. We expect it will not last for more than a few years to come.
Absolutely, we are really in a state of crisis, not only rising waters and storms, severe storms, and we're looking at a drought which is semi-permanent.
I mean, we're in an era where some people are predicting wars over things like water and food and the like.
One of the most powerful earthquakes in the UK for years has hit Kent overnight.
Well, the quake struck Kent just before 3 this morning, with the magnitude measuring 4.2 on the Richter scale.
It was felt in France and Belgium as well.
Bob Surgeon, a magnitude 5.4 earthquake has just hit Nevada, northeast of Las Vegas. We're getting this in just moments ago from the U.S. Geological Survey.
Residents of Konya province, southern Turkey, have described their terror when a giant sinkhole suddenly appeared in a local field. Measuring 10 metres wide and 90 metres deep, the crater formed in the space of 24 hours.
Players in Missouri in the States had a new hazard to contend with there after a sinkhole appeared in the course.
Apparently it's 70 feet wide and 30 feet deep.
Meanwhile, mysterious sinkholes have also appeared elsewhere in Russia's Urals. Craters have emerged one after another in the second largest city in the Perm region, and residents fear half of it could collapse beneath the surface. Some intend to leave their hometown to avoid the danger posed by the craters. And we're not finished yet. A giant hole in the ground also appeared in Siberia. The hole on the Yamal Peninsula is almost 80 meters wide. Its depth, though, is not yet known. An emergency situation committee has yet to say what caused it.
Scientists fear they could point to a looming natural disaster.
Obviously, this phenomenon is quite dangerous. It's a known fact that large craters appeared and swallowed whole buildings in many cities around the world.
An extreme heat wave is sweeping across India. Hundreds of people have died, either from sunstroke or dehydration. Temperatures are soaring, in some places touching 118 degrees Fahrenheit.
All of these states are reporting fatalities. At last count, more than 2,000 people have died from the extreme heat.
Local hospitals are filling up.
Even the roads have melted.
In Rajasthan or Gujarat, it is 1 in the morning and the temperature has just dropped from 39 down to 40. I mean, this is over 100 degrees.
Even as the death toll in the current sweltering heat wave crosses the 2,000 mark, Weather Department is predicting that the deadly heat wave will persist.
This morning, record-breaking and deadly floodwaters continue to wreak havoc across central Texas and Oklahoma.
A deluge of historic proportions, and in hard-hit Houston, the devastation is measured in miles. Entire neighborhoods underwater.
The nation's fourth largest city crippled. In just 24 hours, the city getting nearly a quarter of its yearly rainfall.
Nearly 40 counties throughout Texas now under an emergency disaster declaration. The death toll in both southern states continues to rise.
The challenges are not over yet. There's going to be more rain to come.
Meanwhile, a freak tornado has ripped through a border city in northern Mexico, leaving more than a dozen people dead and many more injured. 3 children were among those killed when the surprise whirlwind hit. Flipping over cars and tearing down homes here in Ciudad Acuña, it left a trail of destruction.
A tornado touching down on Ohio overnight.
It flipped vehicles in a shopping centre car park onto their roofs. The twister was one of several severe weather events to hit the United States this week.
Picked up by a waterspout, the bounce house goes airborne. 3 young children inside.
A bounce house right on Fort Lauderdale Beach with 3 children inside taken up into the air by a waterspout 30 feet wide.
The Wolf volcano on Isabella Island erupted for the first time in over 3 decades. Fears have been expressed for the unique ecosystem that inspired Charles Darwin's theory of evolution.
All right, this just coming into us, a volcano on Kuchino-Erabu Island in southern Japan erupted Friday morning. Pyroclastic flows have reached the coast. Meteorological agency officials have issued the highest level warning. They're telling the island's 130 residents to evacuate.
A 8.5 magnitude earthquake has hit off the western coast of Ogasawara Island, south of Tokyo in the Pacific Ocean. It happened about 8:30 p.m. local time, setting off car alarms and shaking buildings as far away as Tokyo.
I warn you, we are in very dangerous times. We are living in biblical times.
The message from this small independent republic to the entire world is one of dignity and freedom and tolerance, liberté, fraternité, égalité. Thank you.
We are now at the place to where you better have your house in order.